Welcome to Swayam online program on urban local governance. We are doing now the second part of the summary. The first part we discussed on the evolution of local governance. We also saw the issues and challenges of local governance, and we also just touched upon the 74th Constitutional Amendment. Now, what you have to remember for the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act is that the Constitution has enshrined or empowered the local government with the 73rd and the 74th Amendment Act, and the 74th Amendment Act is associated with urban local governance. If you see Part 9A of the Indian Constitution of our system, the Part 9A of the Indian Constitution actually contributes to the 74th Amendment Act, and it empowers the local government with urban local governance and empowering them to establish itself a power of governance. And it is termed as the municipalities. What are the articles of the Constitution that is associated with the 74th Amendment Act, which comes under the Part 9A of the Constitution? They are Articles 243P to 243ZG. Additionally, you should remember that there is the 11th and the 12th schedule. The 11th schedule is associated with the Panchayati Raj system, which comes under the 73rd Amendment and the Indian Constitution. But the urban local governance, the new 12th schedule, is associated with urban local governance, which comes with the 74th Amendment Act and Part 9A of the Indian Constitution. And there is some functional items which is associated with the 74th Amendment Act. So, the 74th Amendment Act is an important aspect as far as urban local governance is concerned. You might ask why, but you should remember that the 74th Amendment Act is related to urban local governance and urban local bodies, and also it gives the term the municipalities, unlike the Panchayati Raj, and it comes under Part 9A of the Indian Constitution, and the articles come from 243P to 243ZG, and it comes under the 12th schedule, and also there are 18 functional items. Now, if you want to categorize a place urban, then if they fall into that 18 functional items, then it is categorized as an urban city or town depending on their area. So, what are the types of urbanization? We've already done in one of the study or in one of the videos. So, I would only summarize that as municipal corporation or a municipality or a notified area committee or a town area committee or a cantonment board, township or a port trust or a special purpose agency or a metropolitan city. And metropolitan city is generally the highest level. If you see in India, the metropolitan cities are usually the Chennai, Bangalore or Kolkata, Mumbai and Delhi. And it's because of the population and of the lifestyle, and also it is because of its infrastructure. Now, when we are talking about metropolitan cities, another concept, it's important to understand that smart city is something which is evolving in the recent times, because smart city is revolving around core infrastructure aspects. What does smart city comprise of? There should be adequate water supply, there should be electricity, of course, a proper solid waste management system, urban mobility and transport system, affordable housing, there should have robust connectivity, and also the concept of good governance, a sustainable environment, then it should be safe and secure, and also health and education should be part of the smart city. So, these are the pillars, I would say, of smart city. Now, you can identify whether the place you are living is a city or not, and if it is considered a smart city, whether these parameters are all fulfilled. If you think there is water, there is sustainable growth, there is affordable housing and infrastructure connectivity, then I think it will be considered as a smart city. Recently in the newspaper also it came out that nearly 70% of the cities are smart city because of the parameters it falls under. So sustainability and sustainable living is one of the important contribution as far as smart city is concerned. It's not that you can ignore the sustainable development goals as far as urbanization is concerned. Urbanization is a worry is because of the growing population but also the water stress concerns. If you see that in a city like India, we have lot of lakes, we have also a lot of wetlands. The wetlands actually act like a sponge, protecting the groundwater. There was a report given by the Californian University and it was realized that so when a country which is so-called developed country is facing water issues in the cities, then must you talk about the Indian cities, which is quite a challenge because you have relative poverty, you have extreme poverty, at the same time extreme richness. So the matching is not made. Whether we are able to maintain and sustain the groundwater. Now if you see, the wetlands are used up for real estates and urbanization challenges are ever increasing. Just having a garden on the terrace is just not enough, but also to reserve and conserve the groundwater is important. How do you conserve the groundwater? We can say easily that city like Chennai, you are near the sea coast, so you can do a desalination project. But desalination is not a simple affair. It's one of the most expensive affair, and also it will cost the living organisms in the seawater to death. So it is important to survive with the living condition by sustaining the water, seawater, at the same time for maintaining and conserving the groundwater. So you do rainwater harvesting, but what if there is not enough of rains? Then you maintain the local lakes or create lake as a storage system as they do in Japan. They save the flood water and conserve the water. We should start practicing of conserving water and also to reuse water, wastewater. So there was a lot of concern. Microsoft had invested wasted water to be reused as drinking water, and Bill Gates had taken as a model a small quantity of water and drank to show the world that he is drinking RO, reverse osmosis water, from wastewater to clean water and drinking that water. So California also practice on reusing and conserving water by using wasted water and cleaning up and making it as drinking water. So we can only conserve our groundwater by also using and reusing wasted water, because you should realize the water which is coming from the rivers are not clean water. They could also be effluents of the waste from various forms, either from the industries or from household livings, where wastewater is actually disposed into the river. So reverse osmosis is one of the greatest findings and also means for changing wastewater to clean water, and it can be reused so that the groundwater is saved and conserved, because most of the fresh water is actually used for agricultural purpose. And so conserving and sustainable living should be an ongoing thing as far as urbanization is concerned. Another study we did in one of our videos is solid waste management. You might think that urbanization is all about technology and modernism, but it also should be realized that solid waste management is something which needs to be practiced at every home. Now I just took and did a mapping of a city. Now if you take a city, there is a disposable system. You can see that the disposable system is asking us to segregate wet waste to dry waste. Now, wet waste and dry waste should be segregated in different boxes. Who's responsible for that? The citizens are responsible. It's not that it should automatically segregate the wet waste and the dry waste. The citizens are responsible for segregating. Every household is responsible for segregating the wet waste and the dry waste. Because if you don't do that, most of the waste goes as waste only. It cannot be reused. When we are talking about recycling or reusing of products, we can only use it if it is segregated properly. The wet waste can be used as manure and dry waste can be reused as a different product. Because if you take cardboard, it can be used as paper again. If it is wet, then it can be used as a wet product and it can be only discarded as a solid waste without being used effectively as reusing it as another cardboard waste. So we need to be more responsible and understand the difference between wet waste and dry waste and how we can use the wet waste for reusing and using as manure for gardening. And also the dry waste can be recycled in different forms. And also we can save an environment by segregating only at the grassroots level. At our household, as an individual, we should be able to segregate the wet and the dry waste, so that we can have a responsible life and also a sustainable living. We also dealt with Administrative Reforms Commission. Now, if you see, there are two Administrative Reforms Commission. The first Administrative Reforms Commission had 20 reports and nearly 537 recommendations. Now, if you take the second Administrative Reforms Commission, there were 15 reports. Some of the topics were right to information and some on good governance, on ethics, on civil service, on bureaucracy, on crisis management, public order, local governance, concept of e-governance, which is now transformed to digital governance. From 2014 onwards, the concept of Digital India has come about. The strengthening of financial system, the strengthening of local and state government, especially urban governance, because they wanted to match urban governance with sustainable development goals. So the Reforms Commission focused on the infrastructure more, administration also, and also focused on how the future should look like as far as administration is concerned. It also dwelled on technology and methods adopted for administrative reforms. Now we are seeing that India is moving to a paperless, cashless and a faceless society. We just need a smartphone if we are traveling. Before, we would be taking travel checks, we will be taking a few keys along with us so that we are safe and lock up all our boxes. But now it's not so. You just have a phone, you can just transfer money, you can use security protection, you can also have certain cyber security measures to protect your phone and also keep yourself tracked so that you cannot be misused. So technology has contributed a lot with infrastructure with the Reforms Commission's report. And also the many challenges the Administrative Reforms Commission has identified in the form of recommendations. Now you have the first Reforms Commission was chaired by Morarji Desai and the second Reforms Commission was chaired by Veerappa Moily. And you see that these recommendations were not fulfilled effectively. Of course, we have made use of ethics in administration and civic society and civil society, and civic administration has taken to a new level. But if only all these recommendations are considered effectively, we would have a much better urban local governance. Now we have identified also some of the problems of urban local governance, and we discussed in the various videos on youth and local governance, the role of youth, because India is going to be in near future the youngest population. We also have the issues of migration and also issues of refugees. Now migration is different from refugees. Migration could be moving from place to place just for transfer of your job. It could be from an organized sector or an unorganized sector. Organized sector is not much of an issue because most of it taken care by the employee, whereas the unorganized sector is a concern because you are moving in for a job or for employment. Say many of the North Indians are moving towards the South for employment, and most of the South Indians are keeping the North Indians because labor is cheaper. And so migration happens, and then people start moving from one place to another for better prospects. So migration involves that. But if you see refugees, it's a concern. You have the Rohingya refugees, we have the Sri Lankan refugees, and we have the Tibetan refugees. And also we need to consider the human rights aspect, whether the living conditions or the health conditions are good enough for them to be living in that particular camp. But also it should understand that human rights is an aspect which the government should take responsibility. Whether the burden of an extra group of people can be taken is necessary because of their inconvenience in staying in any other place. So it also becomes a moral and ethical responsibility of the government to take care of the human rights aspect of the refugees. It's also important that they are taken care of as far as the health is concerned and also the education is concerned, so that their living conditions can be improved. Refugees cannot be mistaken as prisoners. They are here for a livelihood, or they are here for their safety and security. If the government has taken responsibility, they should also give and provide facilities so that the living conditions can be better. And of course, with multi-stakeholderism, with partnerships, with corporate social responsibility, the refugee concerns can also be taken into effect, and also responsibility is also on the people of that particular country to take care for an improving living condition of the refugees. So the growing concern of urban local governance is youth, because the youth is the population which brings in productivity and also employability, and migration because of the transition society, because urbanization involves development, then there will be migration, and also the refugee problems because they have to live closer to the city so that it can be managed by the police and managed by the government, managed by the people around. Now comes the concept of good governance. What is good governance? Good governance works on certain parameters which was introduced by the World Bank. What are the concepts? Some of the concepts are participation, accountability, responsiveness, transparency, effectiveness, efficiency, equitable and inclusiveness, minimum corruption, rule of law, protection of minorities and vulnerable people in the society. If you take each pillar becomes very important, because participation is important not only of the government, but we are talking about governance. So it also involves the citizens. It also involves the private organization. It also involves the voluntary organization. Participation in governance for making a life more sustainable and also peaceful. Accountable is the people are also responsible. At the same time, the government is also responsible. People's responsibility does not stop only with the election. People's responsibility is also in execution and implementation of certain good programs. People's responsibility also increases when you participate in government activities and also help the government in providing a better life and better living condition for the people. Responsiveness. Now, if you go to a kiosk, you can get the direction from one place to another place. But responsiveness is when you get a ticket from the kiosk, and also it gives you alternate and cheaper means of transport. So responsiveness involves when the government is giving us a program, if we are able to effectively use the program. If it's just a namesake program, then it is not responsive. Now, if you go fill a form in a website, it should give you either your certificates immediately without us moving around from place to place, then it is more a responsive government. So, it's important to have a collaborative government with multi-stakeholderism. And what is this concept? Which can be very well understood in the passport system itself. When you check the passport system, when you go into the passport office itself, it is one of the private organization working with the government to maintain the database, and at the same time it is making the work easy. It's no longer very tedious to get a passport. It becomes instant because you can register for an appointment online, and then you have all the facilities there, and also you can use your phone, smartphone, so that you can store all your files and all your social security certificates, so you can take a printout easily, and your work becomes easy to get a passport. And also, when you talk about transparency, transparency is, you know that the government is going to be responsible and also responsive to your request. Transparency is found in most of the system in the form of RTI, and that awareness and that rights is to be understood by every citizens of the society, and also effective and efficient use of our rights. Effective use is, it should be useful and purposeful. If a government is promoting a sponsorship or a scholarship, it should be effective so that it is benefiting the people, especially the minorities and the vulnerable people of the society. If it's not going to be effective, then there is no point. And the efficiency is, if there is free education available, there is also the possibility of getting employment. If there is proper employment, then the efficiency of the education system is felt. There is no point just giving free education and no employment. And also equitable and inclusive, which has to be. Equitable is its distribution of their rights to the right people. It's not that one person gets the benefit and the other does not. So, it should be inclusive in nature, and the corruption should be eradicated at all levels, so that the rule of law is practiced. What is rule of law? Equality before law. There is no one above law. There is some kind of immunity given to the president, but not to all citizens. So, rule of law says that justice is equal in front for everyone, equal rights for all, and no one is above law. And protection of the minorities and vulnerable people of the society is an important responsibility of any citizens. And also, it is important to understand the urbanization policies as far as technology is concerned, infrastructure is concerned, the social, economical, political, and also institutional is concerned. The institutions play a very important role as far as urbanization policies are concerned. We also have an election process. If you take under the 74th Amendment Act, the articles from 243K and 243ZA is based on the 74th and the 73rd Amendment Act of 1992, speaks about the election of the state. It is also important to understand it covers the urban local bodies. Now, let's review certain concepts so that you have reviewed them in the videos, so you will understand the concept of bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is just not ivory tower thinking, but grassroots level democracy and execution of the policies to the grassroots level. We also should understand the concept of Digital India and programs like Amrit, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan or the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, both in the rural and urban governance, and the National Urban Livelihood Mission, which is actually called DNAULM, which is Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. We also have the Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana as HRIDAI, which is also maintaining and reviving our heritage. So, it's important to understand the concepts and the various policies of urban governance to see that the government is also playing a role in being more responsible in protecting its cities or urban areas. So the role of the district collector also was studied. The role of the district collector was studied in one of the videos, and now it is for you to understand what is the role of the district collector of your particular district. Whether it's just a passionate district collector or just a person who is doing at his leisure. So the role of the district collector could be better understood if you understand the functions of the district collector. The district collector also acts as a development program officer because he has to execute and implement responsibility the urban policies and programs. Now, we also did a video on policing. So we need to review what is policing, whether policing is actually protecting our society, like what Maslow had told, that safety and security also plays an important role in our needs and motivation. So is your city safe because of the police? And what kind of system a city has as far as policing is concerned can be easily understood. We also had discussion forums on rapid urbanization, the role of youth, mental health, issues and challenges, and also the environmental challenges. Now I want to pose you all some questions on unsung heroes. If you see so many pictures are in front of your screen, can you unlock the people involved as unsung heroes in your society, especially in the urban areas? If I have to give you a clue, I can give you a clue. There is a traffic policeman here, disaster management unit, you have the NGOs, a manual scavenger, which is a shame that in a city like with infrastructure and development, we have manual scavenging still being practiced. We are not able to do anything about it. The postal service, the post office is also acting like a bank. You have the numerous people involved in engineering or your transport system. We also have the health workers. All these are unsung heroes who are working tirelessly day and night to keep your city safe. How much of thankfulness or gratitude do we have? How many times have we realized to show some gratitude to these unsung heroes in our society? We also did a little study on the best cities of the world. If you take some time out, you can identify the cities in this picture. So you can see there are certain clues, but if you really want some more clues, I can say that there are cities like Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, you have Tokyo, you have New York, and also Singapore City. If you can identify, then you can face any kind of MCQs in your urban local governance test. If there is any questions, kindly ask me, and you can email your questions. We can have a discussion on one of the questions which you have found it difficult to answer. Thank you.